missed you last week. Sorry, we were traveling and we just couldn't pull it off. I'm really sorry. We put a notice out there, but not everyone saw it, and we probably should have notified a little more fully than we did, but we're so sorry. So I'm glad to be back. My name is Joette Calabrese, for those of you who don't know me. And we do one thing and one thing only. Every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, we discuss, I teach, we talk about homeopathy. Practical homeopathy, to be more specific. But, and for those who already know me, hi friends. Sound, oh, hold on, my sound, hold on. Is the sound better now? I have this fuzzy microphone. How's that? Can you hear me? You should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me now? There was no sound. Nothing happening, no music, no sound. Yes, you can hear me. Pamela, you can hear me. Yes. Okay, you can hear me. All righty. Hi, friends. I'll start again. It's Joette Calabrese. And I'm here, and we do this every Monday night. We do one thing and one thing only, and that is I discuss homeopathy with you and teach you what I know. Much better. Barely can hear me. I think I'll hold the microphone. How about that? It's a fuzzy one so that you don't hear popping. All righty. So, and for those of you who do know me, hi, friends. It's great to see you. Missed you last week. So sorry. We were traveling. I did leave a notice, but I don't feel as though we left a notice that was broad enough. It was all done that morning, and we had to catch a plane, and it just didn't work out. So I apologize, and so we're going to carry on with the subject that we were supposed to be working on last week, which is food intolerances. And I see from those of you who are here, many of you already know these remedies. But I also want to discuss, even for those of you who already know what medicines to consider for food intolerances, I'd like your feedback, because many of you I know are in my academy. Many of you have already gone through Academy and Mastery, 2 long programs, and many of you have been through the Good Gut, Bad Gut course. So I know you know this, you've got this information, you've got it down pat. So I'd like your experiences with it. But meanwhile, I want to answer, besides the question of what remedies do we use for food intolerances, I want to skip over that for a moment, because the question comes in consistently. So while I'm taking the homeopathic medicines for food intolerances, may I eat the foods that I'm intolerant to? And so it's a very important question, because certain times it's for a child, for example, and everyone in the family is eating dairy, but this child cannot. So can I give the child dairy while we're using the homeopathic medicines and consider it of no concern at all? So let me tell you that it all depends, because that's the way human health is. How severe are the allergies? Is the child terribly sick with eczema or asthma or behavioral problems, anxiety, those kinds of conditions? When they get exposed to dairy, then I would say I would adhere to a very strict diet of remaining away from dairy and go ahead and use the homeopathic medicine. If, however, it's someone who says, I gain weight when I eat dairy, and it's not a big deal, it's not horrible, but I really don't want those extra pounds. And that is in a way, it's a food intolerance. It's not completely, but in a way it is. So for that person, it's not such a big deal. And so they could perhaps use the homeopathic medicine along with eating dairy and maybe cutting back on the amount so that they don't gain as much weight, etc. So let's see, Athusa for milk intolerance. You're absolutely right, Linda. It's so great to see you all. I love to see you, reading your names. Yes, good, 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 good. All right. So, yes, Athusa is a very specific medicine for dairy intolerance. Now, often we see, if you read up on Athusa, Aethusa, I want you to remember you need to read these medicines. In a materia medica, you need to understand them. You need to know them. You can't just blindly say, "Oh, I'll just use Athusa." You know, my child has dairy intolerance, and then you say, "Well, yeah, but he also has peanut butter allergies, and he also has gluten intolerance, and he also can't have beef, and he can't have this, and he can't have." No, that's not a dairy intolerance. That's an overall food allergy or food intolerance. So Athusa is specific for someone who has dairy, pretty much dairy-only intolerance. That is important. That's why it's important that you understand how to do this. And if you don't already have my Good Gut, Bad Gut course, or if you already have it and you're still not 100%, watch that course again. You own it. Watch it again. It's online. And I always tell people when you get these courses, particularly that one, Good Gut, Bad Gut, it is very intense. It's replete with tons of information, and I guarantee you'll not get it by going through it once, not even twice, not even 3 times, 4 times. Now, why do I even say 4 times? Because I've had more people tell me that they didn't hear me say this or that until they listened or watched the program 4 times. I don't know why that is. It's just human nature, I guess, but that's the way it goes. So I want to make sure that you understand that these medicines, some of them are very specific for specific foods, and others are based on conditions, such as, I should say symptoms, and others are based on a broad stroke of conditions. So we're using Athusa. I'm glad somebody brought that up because it was going to be one of my first remedies to consider, and that is specifically for dairy intolerance. It matters not what kind of dairy, whether it's yogurt, whether it's 100% organic, full fat, homemade, it matters not. If the person is suffering from that, then that means that they have a dairy intolerance. Okay. I will come back to this, Alice. My cousin's 4-year-old grandson has anaphylactic, and I want to talk about that. And we've talked about anaphylactic reactions in the past, regardless of the cause, whether it's from a bee sting, or it's from peanut butter, or it's from eggs, or it's from shellfish. Anaphylaxis is still the same. It doesn't have to even go as far as shock. Swelling of the lips, swelling of the tongue, swelling of the uvula, the throat. That is anaphylaxis. And when we see that kind of a reaction, it doesn't have to be all of those. It can be just one. It can be just even itching, just the lips are itching and getting a little swollen. We know that the medicine specific for anaphylaxis, regardless of the etiology, regardless of the cause, is Apis. So the Apis, so somebody says they can't hear me. Cindy says, can't hear you. Can everyone else hear me? Yes, thank you, Pamela. Pamela knows this, yes. Yeah, try turning your volume up. I'm sure you've already done that. But you're the only one so far at this point that's saying you can't hear so well. So, yes, Apis. Yes, Apis. Apis mellifica is very specific. And not only does Apis mellifica take care of that incident, that event, that moment in time, what's better than using another method, such as an EpiPen, the EpiPen halts the reaction at that moment in time, and then later on it's very likely that the reaction will occur again, and often it will get worse and worse and worse. Why? Because when we suppress symptoms with conventional drugs, okay, they can hear now, all right. When we suppress symptoms with conventional synthetically derived drugs, it kicks the can down the road. It might help at that moment in time, and I'm not saying if you don't have Apis and all you've got is an EpiPen, you bet you want to use the EpiPen. But if you have a choice and you've educated yourself and you learn how to do this, then you will find that the next time you're thinking you might need an EpiPen or Apis is a little bit less. And then the next time after that, it's even less still. That is the whole way that homeopathy works for these kinds of conditions. It makes less intensity, lasting for a shorter period of time, and a larger space between each episode of those incidences. And this is so not just for apis and a swelling of the lips, it's anaphylaxis, but for many of these homeopathic medicines, we see that as we use them, the condition becomes less and less of a problem. It's just the way it works. So some people, sound is faint. Sound up. Turn up the volume. Okay. Yes, I can hear you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, folks. I'll get this even closer to my lips so that you can hear me even better. Okay. Now we've talked about Athusa and apis. We've also talked about what we do until the homeopathic medicine acts. Now, apis is going to act immediately. Why? Because anaphylaxis is serious, and it is an acute situation. It's going to work right away. When it comes to dairy intolerance, and it's just it's an intolerance, but it is an intolerance that is chronic. Now it's going to take time. For many people, it takes many, many months, sometimes even as long as a year. But we don't wait a whole year and say, okay, well, that did nothing. No, we're measuring. We're looking at how does this look now after using it for 2 months? Okay, what's the difference now after 4 months? Okay, now what's the comparison after 6 months to the first time we started using it? Over time, we will see that there will be small increments of improvement. How will they improve? The way I just described it. Less intensity to the symptoms, lasting for a shorter period of time, and a larger space between each episode. That's how we know that the condition is improving. We might still see the condition occur, but it won't be as intense. We might still see the condition occur, but it won't last as long. And we might still see the condition occur, but it won't be as frequent. There's a larger space between each episode of its occurrence. Okay, now let's talk about a homeopathic medicine that we use for food intolerances that's based not on what causes it, but rather how it's presenting. Not unlike apis for anaphylaxis, but this situation is not as acute generally. And this medicine is Lycopodium. Lycopodium, Lycopodium 200C. Not 30, not 6, nope, not 1M, nope, 200C. Often it's combined with arsenicum, and when it's combined with arsenicum, it's because there's burning in the belly. But Lycopodium, let's go back to the essence of Lycopodium, is bloat. Now, some people misunderstand what the word bloat means, and it can mean many things. But what we're talking about is gastrointestinal bloating, the kind where it feels like you've eaten a beach ball, or it feels like there's a stone in your belly. It feels heavy and very uncomfortable in the abdomen, in the stomach. Sometimes you can actually see it. It actually looks bloated. It's the kind of thing that, that kills horses. Yes, my friends, and Lycopodium 200C is the medicine we use when a horse gets bloat, because they die from bloat. We don't die from bloat, but horses can. And so we use the same medicine, Lycopodium 200C. And that is the medicine. Before we use it, we go to a materia medica, we read up on Lycopodium, we make sure that it does make sense. Yes, thank you very much. I can see this happening with my lupus. Each flare is reduced in its intensity. Yes, Sarah, you're right. You still will have these, most likely. Once in a while we have people, not once in a while, I should say it's not that uncommon, that we have folks who get better right away. Beautiful. It's a beautiful sight to behold. But many times, when it comes to food intolerances, listen, it's taken years, if not decades, if not even behind you with your parents in the inheritance for this to have come about. Do not ask this to work immediately, unless, of course, it's an acute. And in that situation, when it's an acute situation, such as anaphylaxis, yes, we do ask it to work quickly. It should. It's absolutely so. All righty. So here's somebody asking a question, acne from dairy. Okay. dairy is the cause, right? Dairy is the etiology. And we know that the acne, I'm assuming that we absolutely know, Catherine, that the acne is specifically from dairy, not chocolate, nope, not pollen, nope, not feathers, not a dog, nope, not hormones, nope, it's dairy. If we know that it's dairy, then we know the medicine to consider. And it's strongly considered is Ethusa. But it doesn't mean we can't use a medicine that's also specific for acne. We can actually use both. And that's what I teach in my Good Gut, Bad Gut course. How to integrate using the medicine that uses the etiology, the remedy that is used based on the cause of the condition, as well as how it's presenting. The cause is the dairy. The presentation is the skin, acne. All right. Let's see what else we've got here. We also have, I would like to see what other people have, what they've used, because I know that a lot of you are from my classes, and I'd like to be able to see what your experience has been. Okay, what is the dosage for Apis? And we can use a 30 if it's just mild. We could use even a 200 or even higher if needed, and you use it every few minutes, especially if we're talking about something that's very serious. You've got that EpiPen right there. I'm not saying throw out your EpiPen. Hold on to it. Meanwhile, you're taking Apis. Okay, I can hear just fine. Beth says, my 8-year-old daughter has some unique intolerance symptoms, so it has been tricky to navigate. After eating dairy, eggs, or peanuts, she has small pebble-like stool. It seems that these stools slow her motility, which causes chronic constipation for her. What remedies can I use to, what's the condition? What is the condition? The condition is constipation. Then we use for a constipation medicine. And that, my friend, is also dealt with in my Good Gut, Bad Gut course. But I've also written about it. If you want to go for something that's free, Joette Calabrese Constipation, and look that up. And you'll see it right there on my blog. And I've also written about it, I think, through the Weston Price Foundation. I'm almost positive I published an article through them for constipation. All right. Now, it could also mean that you need to use something like a homeopathic medicine for that, which might be, for example, Lycopodium, might be Bovista, might be calcarb. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is because I would need a little bit more. Okay. Elizabeth says, my mom has found Lycopodium 200C to help her gas after eating certain foods, as well as some of her arthritic pains. Yes, absolutely. So Lycopodium can cover, because she has gas and bloating, because that's essentially what bloating is incarcerated gas of sorts, right? I mean, otherwise, what could it be? A person didn't eat an entire watermelon, still in the rind. They ate, some some cottage cheese or something, and it feels like they've eaten a watermelon. Then we know that it must be gas, okay? I had success with Nux vomica 200C for frothy bloat in a cow. Thank you, Mindy. That's really great to know. That's really good. I still look pregnant and used Lycopodium 200C protocol, and tummy went down and 2 sizes less for my skirts. That's so great. That's for Anisha, who's laughing, she says. Ha ha, she says. Let's just see. I had anaphylaxis from a wasp sting, and my throat shut. I drank my urine, and it opened up immediately. Urine is also like homeopathy. No, it's not. I'm not saying that you did the wrong thing, because obviously you did the right thing, but it's not like homeopathy at all. Homeopathy is dilutions that are specifically prepared. They're diluted according to a homeopathic pharmacopoeia mathematical method that is very exacting. I'm delighted that you found that, but that's not what homeopathy. Is excessive bloating the same as excessive gas after eating? Well, I think I just talked about that. Yeah, dairy and chocolate erupts rosacea breakouts. Yeah, I think that's so. But let me just say this. Chocolate, my friends, as delicious as it is not a health food. And I know people like to think it is. It's been put out there that it is. I'm sorry. It's very high in oxalates. Not everyone responds to oxalates, but it is not a health food. So I used to get delayed reactions, intestinal, so it was hard to figure out which food or ingredients to avoid. Lycopodium did help. So Alice, it's probably because you know a good amount of homeopathy, and you knew to use Lycopodium because of the symptoms. You didn't know the cause. You just knew the symptoms. That's a great way to look at it. You can get really far in determining which medicines to use by using the symptoms. Let's see. Nux Vomica helped enormously with multiple chemical sensitivities and food intolerances, says Alice. You bet. It was the first, Nux Vomica was the first medicine that was ever given to me by a homeopath. And it cleared up just about 50, 60%, maybe even more than that, of my sufferings, which included a whole array of conditions, chemical sensitivities, food intolerances, asthma, anxiety. I mean, it just cleared up so many issues for me, and I took it from there. All right. Hi, Harry. Harry says, I'm a celiac. And so for celiac disease, we usually use Bovista, Bovista 200C. And let's see if anyone else is talking about Bovista. I've used all of them, says Pat. Lyco-Rs, Lycopodium, Lyco-Iris, for acute, Athusa for chronic, along with tuberculinum for miasm. My success story and doing great. Love it, Pat. So what that tells me, Pat, my guess is you did not take them all at once. You didn't take them all within a week or a couple months. My guess is you took these medicines over a period of time, and they were indicated. As they were indicated, that's when you used them. That's my sense of where you went with that, and I'm delighted to hear that. Let's see. I went to Chicago this past weekend, says Tina, and was able to eat a deep dish slice. Oh, love that pizza in Chicago, that deep dish. It's great stuff. Delighted to hear. Repertory is where you look up your symptoms in a very large book. Yes, Donna must be responding to someone. Hi, Donna. Because of your good gut, bad gut, and allergic courses, I got rid of a lot of food allergies and intolerances in my large family and myself for the APH celebration weekend and the last year. I've been able to eat gluten, dairy, pizzas, and many foods again. Delighted to hear that, Phoenicia. I kind of knew that. Didn't know to what degree. Yes. Phoenicia's in the academy, and I know Phoenicia has a large family, and it has helped her a great deal. Let's just see. Dolly says, Beth, welcome. She's saying hi to Beth. Tina, do you mean that it healed you or it helps after accidentally eating gluten? Both, Catherine. We start out with, as an acute, we use it at that moment in time. And as I said earlier, it corrects as you use it. Over time, the correction is made. So, and then what is the correction? I would call a correction a healing, right? So that's what we're looking for. Does it mean that you will always be able to eat these foods? Well, if you can't, if you've stopped using the homeopathics because you're better, then, and you find you can't take that food again, what do? You don't say, oh no, it's back again. You say, oh cool, I know exactly what to do. And you go back to the medicine, the last medicine that helped you, and start it up again. Or here's another scenario. Sometimes people talk about they can have a little bit of gluten. Once a week, they can have a slice of pizza, deep dish pizza in Chicago. But if they had it twice a week, they feel a little uncomfortable. 3 times a week, and it throws them back again. So you're finding your tipping point. But there was a time when that person could not have any gluten at all, not even a flake. not even a cross-contamination. So what's happening is they're becoming less and less sensitive as the homeopathic medicines are used. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Let's see, Phoenicia's responding to Jaylin, and people are helping each other. Love to hear this. Love to see this. What would you recommend for tooth pain sensitive to cold and hot? Well, we're going to start talking about, we're talking about food intolerances tonight, if you don't mind. Is there a protocol to move my son out of an anaphylactic peanut allergy? Yeah, we just talked about that, Alyssa. We just talked about that earlier. So just watch this again. It'll be up again, and it was earlier in the evening. We talked about that, exactly. And plus, I would also urge you to consider, we're telling you about one particular medicine, but as Phoenicia says, she took two courses, my two courses, one on allergies and one on good gut, bad gut. And between the two of them, she's been able to treat her very large family and herself for all of their allergies and food intolerances. And I believe that she had anaphylaxis in her family as well. Yes, so my 6-year-old granddaughter gets diarrhea after drinking milk, but tolerates cheese. Yes, absolutely. It happens all the time. Certain kinds of cheeses are problematic, others are not. The older cheeses are often easier to tolerate. Pecorino, Reggiano Pecorino, or sometimes, so ice cream makes someone sick, sour cream is okay. Whipped cream, raw whipped cream is okay. Pasteurized whipped cream is not. Yeah, you just have to know which one it is. And you abstain from it until you can figure it out, and then you start taking the homeopathic, and slowly, over a period of time, you add it back in. If it's important enough to add back in. Because to be honest, friends, some of these foods that we're allergic to are not worthy of adding back in. Yes, what about irritable bowel syndrome? Can there be connected with food intolerance? You absolutely bet it can be, June. No doubt about it. Absolutely. I talk about it in depth in my Good Gut, Bad Gut course. No doubt about it. I've worked with many people with irritable bowel syndrome. It is the food more often than anything else. Okay. Dolly says, Beth, I do the, okay, Dolly's responding to Beth. Anyone ever dealt with intolerance to peppers and chilies? Consumption is followed by cramping and diarrhea for about the next 36 to 48 hours. And that is from Corellia. Corellia, it matters not what the food is. I told you what is for dairy is very specific. And Bovista is very specific as well. So we've got Athusa and Bovista, but we also have remedies that are specific based on not the food, but the condition, the symptoms. So if we use a medicine that is specific for diarrhea, regardless of whether it was caused from beans or chilies or dairy or inhaling smoke, it matters not. Now, if we know that and we've got that remedy, that's great. But if we don't and all we've got is that a specific symptom occurs, we use the medicine that is specific for the symptom of diarrhea. All righty, let's see what else we've got. How about a fish allergy that can close the throat? How about that, Joanne? We talked about that earlier. Maybe you came in late because we talked about closing the throat is an anaphylactic reaction, and we know exactly what medicine to use. Talked about it earlier. If you missed it and you're late, then just watch it again. You'll get that information. I don't truly have food intolerances. I just avoid carbs as much as possible, but I do eat it. I'm bloated and feel gross. Maybe it's because I'm not used to it, and my body is saying no. Yeah, hi, Donna. I don't know, but not used to it. I would say that it's not good food for you. That's the best way to look at it. And I think you already understand that. Okay. Hi, Tina. Nice to see you. Slightly swollen, indented tongue. Would that be apis? If slightly a swollen tongue is from a food and it's an allergic reaction, yeah, I might say that that is related to a potential of, it's certainly an allergic reaction and it is certainly a swelling. And yes, apis is more often than not used for that. Where can I learn more about venous insufficiency and how to cure with homeopathy? I just started on a Banerjee protocol for varicose veins, but wondering if it will address the venous insufficiency. So this is how you find this out, Christina. You look up the medicine. You look up that protocol. Look up the 2 medicines that are included in that protocol. Read up on them in your Materia Medica, and you will find out whether or not those medicines will act for another condition. Please, my friends, don't just take the protocol and just, and without doing putting some reading into it. And I don't mean just some. I mean, get a Materia Medica, and they're free online. I have mine. Mine is not free, but you can download mine. You can purchase mine by going to Joette's Learning Center. But there are free Materia Medicas, friends. Dr. Boricke, Boerikke, is free online. Dr. James Tyler Kent, free online. You just go to it and read up on that particular medicine. And if you find those conditions listed there or something very, very closely related to that, then you know that that is likely a good medicine for you. Carbo-vegetables for bloating. Oh, you bet. Carbo-vegetables is my second go-to. When Lycopodium 200C acts and then stops acting, I always consider carbo-vegetables. Or if we use Lycopodium 200C and it never acts, we consider carbo-vegetables. Or if the belly is so bloated that it's tympanic. I mean, it goes beyond bloating. It's tympanic. It looks like a drum. It's so tight after eating or at some point, regardless of whether or not it's immediately after eating or not. I think of carbo-vegetables instead of Lycopodium. A soy reaction of days of depression. Oh, you bet. Well, soy is not something we should be eating anyway, friends. That's a food that we eat when we're in starvation mode, when we have nothing else to eat. So soy is something that you want to eschew anyway. All righty. Late to the party. What if you're reacting to almost every food? Health foods. I can't read that. I don't know if it says health foods. I am sure a lot of it is toxicity. Well, yes, it could very well be. And then we use medicines, and that's where we're going back to the course. And look, I'm not, let's see, how do I put this? I want to give you as much free information as I possibly can through my Monday Night Lives, through my blog, through my, and I have 3 mediums going, 4 mediums right now going. I want to give it to you as much as I can at no cost. But sometimes you really have to go a little bit further and you have to go to a course. And then you go to Joette's Learning Center and look up the course that is associated with the condition that you're concerned about. But try this first. The information that I give here has such high rates of success that it would behoove you to do exactly what you're doing tonight, joining us all, and learning what can be used. And then if that doesn't act, then we go to, okay, I guess I have to buckle down. Now, I'm going to say that these protocols, the Banerjee protocols that I use, and not everything we're talking about is Banerjee tonight, but actually pretty much most everything is. The Banerjee protocols act in about 80 to 85% of those people who are suffering from that particular condition. 80 to 85%. That's why I feel so confident that I can come to the general public and to my friends here and describe to you specific medicines that have been used in the past. Because if Athusa doesn't help with this dairy intolerance, that's not the end of it. No. That's just the first medicine that we consider. Generally, it has an 80 to 85% ability to correct the condition of dairy intolerance. But there's also pulsatilla, my friends. It's a great medicine for dairy intolerance. And there's tuberculinum, and there's calcarb, and we could keep going with this. So I want to give you as much as I can for free, and I want you hooked on this. And the way that I'm going to get you hooked on practical homeopathy is for you to have great success. And so, my friends, I'm going to dash off. I have to go to my Mighty Members Plus. If you're a Mighty member, I'll see you on the other side. And hi, Harry. Bye, Harry. Bye, Donna. Bye, Elizabeth. Great to see you all. Thank you. Are you ready, Perry? We are ready to go over to Mighties. Okay. Okay. Are we all set? Are we with Mighties? Are you sure about that? Doesn't look any different to me. But no, okay. And I need to get my computer here so I can look at my notes. And Kate should be joining me, I think.
Oh, wait a minute. You're going to Mighty's Plus.
Yes, Mighty's Plus.
You gotta turn yourself off.
Okay. Outro. With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. My